with black hair, it's about embracing who you are, and not being afraid to just be you. And that's what I hope to be. I think that's my ultimate goal, is just to be so completely myself and to appreciate who I am and to be okay with who I am and the way that I am. And yeah, without giving a single shred of thought to what other people think of me and how other people see me. And that's where I find my ultimate peace and my ultimate happiness. And I wish that for all black women.
So you've recently cut your hair.
Yeah.
How do you feel about cutting your hair?
In my case, I've never had short hair before. Never ever in my life. I always had long hair. My mom always let my hair grow, and you know, she allowed me creative freedom as a child to decide what I wanted to do with my hair. And so I never wanted to cut it. And there were schools where, you know, the code of conduct for school uniform was that you had to keep your hair short. Girls weren't allowed to grow their hair. So my mom just kept me away from all of those schools and just would put me in schools where I was allowed to do what I wanted with my hair. She was quite an advocate in my life for just creative freedom. I think my main issue was that it was an identifier. And I just wanted to change that. It was an identifier for me. I was the hair girl, and I didn't want to be that anymore. I wanted to figure out, who am I without the hair?
If that was the case, then why would you dye it? Like, you've dyed it twice now, though. Because then it's still, if you're like, I don't want to draw attention to my hair. But now that you've changed it twice, now you've drawn attention to your hair again.
That's a good point. When my hair was long, I was still constantly dyeing it. I dyed it red, I dyed it grey, I dyed it blonde. I've had it, you know, like pitch dark black, blue. And when I do braids, I do colorful braids as well. I just like color. I'm a person that likes color. And what I've noticed that I didn't necessarily see before, when I look back on the colors, the hairstyles that I've done before, sometimes they kind of are a reflection of what I'm going through or that phase of my life. I don't see it obviously when I'm in it because I've just chosen it and it just feels good. But when I look back at the hair, I look at it and it becomes like a playback or like a catalog of the experiences in my life. Cutting my hair was scary because I've never had short hair before, so I didn't know what I would look like. And the thing about that I kind of wanted to challenge myself to do was to do something that I feel like doing despite what other people might think or feel or say. Because I was positive that I would look like a full-grown man. I was sure of it, but I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it because it's what I feel like doing, and if I can do something that I feel like doing, despite what other people might think or feel or say, that kind of will propel me forward to just focus on myself, take my attention away from other people and draw it to myself.
Okay, so this leads me to think about hair and like reinventing yourself. Do you feel like your personality changes when your hair changes?
It does become like an identifier for people. Like if you have people make assumptions on about people based on the kind of hair that they have. You see a black girl with dreadlocks and you kind of immediately will think, oh, she's, you know, conscious or a hippie. You see girls with natural hair, and natural hair is like radical. And you know, you see a girl with a really expensive wig and you just think, okay, she's, you know,
a slay queen.
She's a slay queen, you know what I mean? So it is a form of expression. It's definitely a form of expression. I will do like long braids and I feel it. My favorite thing with really long braids is when I tie it up in a bun and I have this huge bun on my head and it feels like a crown. That's like when I feel most beautiful. When I have a huge bun on my head, it's very elegant. I feel like regal and elegant. That's my favorite hairdo. So I know that when I'm in that mode, that when I have that bun, that does change the way that I feel about myself. Afros as well make me feel like really, I can get a bit loud the bigger my hair is. Sometimes, it'll affect my noise level and my confidence level. So with short hair, I was worried about what would happen when I cut my hair because, like I've said countless times, I've never done it before, and I just thought, okay, I don't know how it's going to affect my personality, because hair can affect your personality and how you feel about yourself. I just thought my face is going to be, am I going to feel pretty? Am I going to feel confident? Am I going to be as forthcoming? Is it going to make me self-conscious? Am I going to want to hide away a lot? Am I going to wear lots of head wraps and hats? And when I did it, I immediately felt liberated. It was an immediate feeling of liberation, and I felt more myself than I've ever felt, ever.
That's lovely.
Because I didn't have anything to hide behind anymore. Whenever I looked in the mirror, I was confronted with myself, my face, all the features of my face, everything that I would hide behind with the hair. I suddenly had to deal with. I had to face it.
Yeah.
And it was scary, but it was exciting, because it was like, now I can really work on who I am without the distraction of my hair.
Okay, do you think, some people think that wigs and weaves and basically longer, more flowing hair, more Caucasian hair is more sexier.
Right.
So like, or prettier, more beautiful, like society's beauty standards. So what do you think about that?
The standards of beauty that we have are not our own. They're not ones that we have innately. It's standards that we were taught. They were imposed on us. So the way that we perceive beauty to be is not, I don't think it's at the moment not very healthy, just on a mainstream level. We have role models, they're just not very prominent in our mainstream culture. So mainstream culture idolizes Western standards of beauty. And the more that we consume that idolization of Western beauty, the more that we kind of try to aspire to be it. African hair is gorgeous. It is. It's not. There's no question about it. African hair is gorgeous, and the only reason that we have a distorted image or a distorted view of African beauty and the beauty of African hair and African skin and African features is just indoctrination. It's just unlearning that we have to do as Africans. And it's in a lot. It's not in just our physical features. It's also just in our beliefs and in the way that we've been made to live now that had nothing to do with how we lived before. I think before colonization and slavery and all the whole Western interruption, we were a completely different civilization. We were a very sophisticated civilization. We're not really taught about our own history and our own our own ancient cultures, our ancient tribes, and how we lived and our lifestyle before all of this happened. We ate differently. We had a different sense of community. We had a different spirituality. And we styled our natural hair. We weren't trying to emulate anything else. We wanted to look like ourselves. We appreciated our beauty and our features, and we had a very high level of respect for ourselves. That was obviously, one of the main intentions and goals during colonization was to destroy that self-respect that we have for ourselves and to destroy our self-image. And that was the tool that made it possible to conquer Africans. And that's why I feel like today we're still conquered to a certain extent, and it is up to us to change that for ourselves, to change the way that we view ourselves, to change the way that we view other people that look like us, our community, because it's just about a level of appreciation for yourself. When you learn to love yourself and it changes your whole perspective on yourself, your community, the people around you, and your purpose in life. You have a higher level of respect for yourself, a higher level of appreciation for yourself. You start to believe in yourself, and that's the beginning of success. That's where success begins, I believe. So yeah, I definitely think African hair is beautiful. I have a very high level of appreciation for African hair, and I get excited about it because straightening your hair, it's considered by a lot of ancient African cultures to be forbidden, because you are interrupting the natural process of curling, which generates electricity, which helps accumulate spiritual wisdom.
Yeah. They believe that the hair is an extension of the brain nerve.
It acts as an antenna.
Yes.
So a lot of ancient African tribes believe our hair to be an antenna that connects us to God, and you can store your wisdom in your hair. That's why the longer people, like in Rastafarians, the longer their dreadlocks, the wiser they're considered to be. In our ancient cultures, they would grow their hair, like I said, it was an antenna, so they would grow it upwards, and the longer it was and the higher it grew, the more connected you were to God. So it is very spiritually significant and culturally significant. One of the first things that was done to Africans during the capture and enslavement of Africans to be shipped over to the States was they would cut their hair, because it served as an identifier. So they would use their hair to give information about the tribes the tribes that they were a part of, their marital status, their social status, their spirituality. It was like an identity card, like an ID. You would see somebody's hair and you'd know immediately there's things that you'd know about them. So the same African notion and the same proverb that facilitates that belief that African hair, or that our hair in general, serves as an antenna to the spiritual realm. Those same practices, when you go into, for instance, train or for initiation to become like an African shaman, a sangoma, a lot of them will cut your hair when you first go in for initiation, because, like we said, information is stored in your hair. Your experiences are stored in your hair. You carry with you negative experiences. So sometimes it's not just positive information that's stored in the hair. Sometimes there can be negative information in there. And if you are maybe going through a spiritual awakening or a spiritual transformation, or you're trying to be reborn in a way, or you're trying to renew your sense of self, sometimes cutting your hair, it can facilitate in renewing you in a rebirth, in stripping away negative energy, in cleansing yourself of negative energy. And now that I'm saying this, I'm actually realizing that that's kind of why I cut my hair. It was kind of like a cleansing. I'm trying to unlearn things that don't serve me, and to change negative behavior, to change bad habits that I have, to remove any toxicity from my life. Toxic people, toxic habits, toxic food, toxic environments. And I felt like my hair, I've had it so long. It was fine, it was relatively healthy. It was cute as well, but I did feel a bit burdened, and cutting it off released me from I felt it immediately, like with the first few chops. It was like, it felt like a cleansing. And that's where the emotion came from, because I didn't understand why I was crying when I did it. It's like, oh my, why am I being such a baby? But I could feel like it was like shedding a layer of skin. Like, there are reptiles that, do that. What is it? Snakes that will go through. It's a season. Yeah, metamorphosis is like a seasonal thing. It's now to go into the next area of your life, or the next phase of your life. You need to shed your old ways, and that was one of the things that I felt I had to shed.